Hello, 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 people. Welcome back to an episode of the USL Show. It is great to be back. We are back to our regular format of 3 leagues, 3 different matches, so many things to get involved with. And as some things change, some things do stay the same. This is an episode with not just 1, but 2 Lexington losses to talk about. We're so ready to get into it. But before we do, John, how are you?
Good. Tired because we're back into the grind, but happy to be back in the grind.
Ryan?
Yeah, echoing John that the time change is just so weird to go through, and it always takes a few days to kind of get back into the adjustment.
Phil, how are you?
It's crazy that things are back. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate everybody holding it down while I was out for a little bit. And I will say I had a very, very cursed thought about this USL season that I will save for the end of the show. So there's your teaser. But I'm excited that the games occurred, and hopefully the games keep occurring, and hopefully under a CBA, but we'll see.
Well, before we get into CBA talk, we want to go ahead and thank our wonderful, amazing patrons. And I have a great honor of naming our newest patron, just kind of friend of the USL, Benji Wade. If you want to be like Benji Wade and get a shout out, also love you, Benji. You're the best. Go ahead, join our Patreon, patreon.com/the USL Show. You can support us there, or you can just like, subscribe, share everything along. You can support us for free, or if you want to help us out just a little bit financially, you can do that. And you can join Benji Wade, Sharon Anderson, Matthew Schaaf, Doug Brooks, Stephen Howard, John's Landlord, Don Garber, David Horn, Josh Dylan Reed, William Lance, Sandy Lester, Ryan Smelter, Matt Capeel, Andrew Towsley, Alt the Hedgehog, Kunal Patel, MOS, and Fresh 30, Tim Nosh, Rion Lacara, Jeremy Churchman, Noah Telfer, Michael Fuchs, John Fuller, Christopher Cohn, Frank Anthony, and John Hunt. Thank you guys so much for helping us do what we do. We really appreciate you. So let's go ahead and just talk about what started off the men's season, which was not a kickoff. It was actually 1 minute of stillness. John shared it, was one of the first people to share it. It was 1 minute of stillness, and the USLPA comes out saying, immediately after kickoff tonight in the season opening USL Championship match between Lexington SC and Louisville City FC, players stood together for 60 seconds in a coordinated display of unity. Yesterday, The Guardian reported that USL headquarters circulated an internal letter to players warning them about risk of strikes, a move they say was intended to scare them from taking collective action. Within 48 hours, players responded on the field. For years, players in this league have absorbed instability while the business expanded. That era is over. This unity action will continue across championship matches this weekend. If there's no progress at the negotiation table, players will evaluate next steps. Players built this league, professional standards must follow. Hashtag stand up for standards. And what made this especially notable is that every single match after this, there was no minute of stillness shown. The league or somewhere decisions were made to not show them. There were a couple of broadcasts that kind of kept painting back and forth, trying to get the kickoff, but just kind of painting back and forth. But other than the very first match of the day, no one really saw the minute of stillness, which made it, weirdly enough, an even bigger headline.
Yeah, and I think it's useful to frame it around what the league's reaction was going to be. And it's why it was such a clever move from the players' union in the first place. They wanted to come into week 1 with some sort of demonstration that takes this message to the casual fan. How do you do that? You do it on the playing field when all the attention is on you. And in the particular instance of Lexington and Louisville, clearly there was no cognizance that the players were going to do this. It was on for the full minute. The version of it that I shared was seen 145,000 times. So people got the message that the players really have something to say here. And then, yeah, the idea that they're going to try to gag order it, not show it. Every supporter in all of these stadiums were taking videos of that demonstration throughout the rest of the weekend. It had this ripple effect where by trying to make it a little bit quieter, it only served to amplify it. So I think it was a job well done and a strategy well considered on the part of the USLPA.
Yeah, it was very much kind of a Streisand effect.
Yeah.
I was like kind of taken aback by how bold the broadcast got in terms of like the lengths to which they went to not make it a thing. I think it makes it clear that that moment of, I mean, I would call it virality, even if it, it didn't break the internet or anything, but the Lexington Louisville match starting in that way certainly like made waves and it got people's attention. And I think it made the league react in a like, oh no, this is building sympathy. But I talked about it last night on Seriously Loco. I was like, the tactics that USL is employing in this does not belie like a position, like a side of negotiations that feels strong about the position being defendable to the public. Like you don't send out the memo of, hey, here's how to cross the picket line, or like, hey, please don't show the players on TV, like protesting, if you feel strong about the actual offerings that you've made. Like if you think you can go defend your case, then it would be like, hey, it is totally within their right. Like the players are able to do whatever they want, and we feel strongly about the case that we put in front of them, and like we believe in the CBA that we've presented. All of these tactics that they're deploying, to me, feel a bit desperate from the league, where the players, for all the relative lack of resources and relative, you would say maybe lack of leverage versus like millionaire plus owners, they are the ones being a bit more measured in how they're approaching this, which is, to me, like it's honestly a little bit like embarrassing for the way that the league has carried this out. And it just kind of shows to me that they don't feel like their position is all that strong.
I think there's a lot of sides to this, and because of the nature of the CBA and the possible strike and yada yada, there's supposed to be a meeting tomorrow between the league and the players, and so we'll see how far things come. I'm going to be really interested to see how those meetings go and when they happen, because there is an 11 o'clock local kick tomorrow morning, a mimosa match between Hartford and Birmingham tomorrow. So will the strike happen in front of the kids? Are the kids going to learn about labor negotiations live in person? Are they going to wait until later on into the day and have one match play, or everybody play, etc., or just wait till this weekend so everybody can be on the same page? I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how that works out. I did see a lot of conversation, though, of revolving around, well, what's the point? What's the point of this? Like, great, you sat there for 60 seconds. You just showed the league that you're willing to play, so you just lost all your leverage. In which I made this point on socials, and supporters actually kind of proved my point, which I was glad I was kind of correct. Which was, there are people who are not like us, who are not terminally online. If you're watching this show, you're terminally online. Like, it's just the way that it is. You're someone who's connected. Even the quote unquote casual fans, and there's different levels of casual fans. There's some people that are just there with their kids. They show up 15 minutes late. They leave 15 minutes early. They're just there for a cheap day out on the town. But there's other people who still go to every game. They're just not online. So they have no idea this is going on. and they're asking questions. Why are they standing still? What's going on? They're probably looking at the board saying who passed away, right? Like who, like, no, oh, nothing. Let me ask someone who knows what's going on. And that's why something like this is so effective, is because it gets people in the stands talking about it, and people who are watching these streams, who are on Twitter, who are on Blue Sky, who are on Reddit, they can convey the information and what is being fought for the players. And it just grows actual grassroots movements for the PA.
Is there any talk of like when, like, does anyone know anything about what the players are thinking? Because to me, the best time to strike would have been basically the second everybody was wheels down. Like anybody traveling was like wherever they needed to be. Because I think that's where this starts to get messy, and why striking now will become quite difficult, because like what is the requirement of the teams to charter flights or something like that? Like if the Players Association goes on strike and you're in Birmingham, right, or wherever, like, and you're not at home, like what happens? So that's where I think this gets a little bit complicated.
That and the US Open Cup ramifications of what happens with that, I think, is a real question mark. I assume they wouldn't play, given that they're representing these clubs, but that is probably up in the air right now. That's not to say that it is an impossibility that they strike. I think a lot is going to depend on the amount of concessions the league is willing to make in tomorrow's session. We'll see what gives with that. But yeah, the deeper into the year you get, I think the thornier it is for the PA.
And the more likely that any of the games that are scheduled just won't get rescheduled and will just be either worked around or just wiped from the future schedule. We play a more truncated season.
I think one thing that with the U.S. Open Cup is fascinating, and I'm glad you kind of brought it up, John. One thing that I've heard from several players around several clubs at this point is most of them are not mad at their club. They're mad at the league office, right? They're mad at the people that they're negotiating with, which for almost all of them, it's not the club themselves. Which I'll be fascinating if the strike happens, right? Massive if, no guarantees, right? If they're happy with the club, if they'll play the U.S. Open Cup matches, but not the USL matches, I wonder if that's something that they would consider. At some really interesting that just wrinkle that gets involved there.
What do the players think about Prink's tires?
They've also never seen one in real life, ever.
I mean, it is like, it's a fascinating problem. I don't know which direction it'll go. I am hopeful that it'll be productive. The cursed thought that I had about this season was I got reminded that it was the 6-year anniversary by Christian Canales, who's on Seriously Loco with me. He reminded me that it was 6 years ago, basically to the day that we recorded a couple of days ago, that we were in my apartment in El Paso and Rudy Gobert tested positive for COVID and the NBA shut down. And we were like, oh no, like things are not going to be normal. And then there was not another USL match played. So we got one under our belt. And so I had that cursed thought of, we got one locomotive draw and then nothing. So hopefully that's not the case for this season, but I do hope that the outcome of all this is the CBA that is ratified, and I hope it is ratified, like represents the best interests of the players who make this league what it is.
And especially with USL One's CBA in the future is just something to keep an eye on with how the current championship CBA is being negotiated and hopefully comes to being ratified.
Which that CBA, I do believe, is December 31st of 2027. So we still have a full year and a half before that one is abridged across. Any final thoughts on CBA before we get into like actual matches played? No. All right. Well, we're going to transition really fast into the top 5 segment. This is the first week that we've had a top 5 moment. So if you want to, submit a top 5 moment for you, it can be a goal, it can be a save, it can be a favorite moment that happened inside the stadium. It could be there was a dog that got onto the field and ran around, because why not? It's our favorite moments from the weekend. And so here is last up this week's top 5 with Nico Campuzano's big save versus the Charleston Battery. He dives over to his left, but gets a save with his right. He makes 2 big saves in this match, but it's not quite enough as the Battery win 2-1 over the Riverhounds. Now to number 4 and out to the Super League. Stanbrook gets the game winner versus Lexington SC in the 93rd minute, but not without Caroline Swan's wonderful dummy to set up the game winner. The Trinity win 1-0. Staying out in Lexington, but up to the championship, Aaron Malloy hits a banger from 30 yards out over their in-state rival, tucked into the bottom corner. Not enough, as Lou City wins 2-1. Another game winner we have is Mark Fisher's game winner versus Monterey Bay. He chops over to his left and puts it over into the right-hand corner as Oakland Roots win 1-0. Now for number 1, we have San Antonio's 11 pass goal in the 5th minute. That is pass number 2 if you're keeping up. Now going out to number 3. Going to cut inside now to number 4, number 5, all the way back to the center back, number 6. Then we have number 7. Now number 8. Going to look upfield for number 9. Got a decent little bit of hold up play, and it's going to go out for number 10. Going to play it over for number 11 and pass it into the back of the nets. It's 1-0, and that's your number 1 play of the week. And with that, we're going to transition to the Super League, where we're going to talk about that 1-0 win for Dallas Trinity. Yeah, like I kind of mentioned, I think it's going to end up being you're going to have Heather Stainbrook being labeled as the hero, but Caroline Swan's just really intelligent dummy just to leave it, drawing 3 defenders to her and leaving Stainbrook wide open. Just incredible amount of intelligence to leave a wide open shot top of the second 6-yard box in the 93rd minute. It doesn't get much more clutch than that from Swan, who could have been selfish and taken it first time. Stanbrook's the hero. Dallas get a huge 1-0 win.
When that whole sequence, right, it starts with the buildup with Obagagu and Hinson up that left side, which really is the engine for Dallas in this game. Then you think about Allie Thornton isn't doing striker things there. She's drifting over, combining with them, forcing Lexington to kind of lose their impetus in the central area of the box. That's why Stainbrook, who's a center mid by trade, has that space to be there for the finish. It's this domino effect of the movement without the ball. Beautiful soccer from Dallas in a game where they were mostly defensive minded, but just having that little bit of quality at the end. I mean, they're 3 points back of Lexington now with a game in hand. They are really positioned to make some noise.
There was something about the way that Dallas were able to funnel a lot of Lexington's attack just into the center, and they kept any sort of they never got disjointed or spread out in the way that Lexington's been able to unsettle other teams. They just funneled everything inside while being able to then exploit the wide areas in their counters. I think, yeah, it was overall a very, very intelligent performance, I think, from Dallas. And, I think what we've seen the last few weeks from Lexington, it's one of those, if it bleeds, we can kill it. Where the beginning of the season, people just didn't really think that they could when going into a game against Lexington. And now, they are human after all. And so now that we're getting towards the business end, and people are thinking playoffs, all that sort of stuff, it's Lexington doesn't have that invincibility, that aura of invincibility that maybe they once did.
Yeah, and if you're looking at Dallas from this, they have opened up a 5-point gap over the playoff line. And with that game in hand, they could be even with Lexington on points. And for Lexington's perspective, this is the first time since May of last season that they lost 2 consecutive games in a row. And they get to play Dallas again on the 18th of next week as at least Lexington's next game. And they really don't want to make that 3 in a row, especially given that they haven't scored a goal in their last 2 games. So it will be very interesting to see how Dallas can kind of rebound or can continue this good form, and if Lexington can maybe rebound in this next meeting.
Yeah, with the Phil, I'm glad you brought up just kind of the way that they were funneling and playing as defensive as not defensive, I don't think that's the right word, but being as defensively solid as they were. I mean, you're going to say, well, Lexington got 14 shots off and they kind of did their thing, and goalkeepers forced to make 4 saves, etc. But they weren't necessarily hard saves to make. One thing that they did really well was they kind of played with this false nine with Balser. I can never pronounce Bethany's last name correctly, but they were playing her as a false 9, dropping in deep, and they were playing. Oh my gosh, they were playing with Missimo deeper as well. They had Baladas dropping in deep, and so they were really having 6 women behind the ball. And yeah, they had 14 shots, 8 of them outside the box. They weren't really challenged in terms of scoring threat from Lexington. Is that a little bit of Lexington not being able to break down just a little bit more defensive solidity? A little bit, but also kudos to the Trinity game plan, because once they bring in Allie Thornton off the bench, they bring in they end up having Swan coming off the bench, McCutcheon, Obogagu also coming in off the bench. The game opens up, and you see what you did at the end of this game. They were able to stay defensive, stay solid, because Lexington's game plan is to hit you early, right? They're trying to get goals early, and same thing. If it bleeds, we can kill it. That's Lexington's whole thing. They're just trying to get blood in the water, and then they attack. They didn't get it this time. Dallas were able to hold on, get a 1-0 win.
Yeah, and thinking about the defensive game plan, they really took notes from what Jacksonville did a couple weeks ago, where in that game it's marking the number 8s, so you're not letting Aylmer and Daria Roger get their touches, keep the tempo flowing, and then you need somebody to cover Addie McCain, who starts as a striker but really is just that facilitator between the lines. And it's what you mentioned with Bellotta Kaler, her sitting deep, kind of zonal, but then picking up McCain whenever she flashed in front of her. It felt like it just killed the momentum that Lexington has been able to build in almost every game this season. And yes, Lexington doesn't have Schartz in the lineup. They don't have Ekic in the starting lineup. All of that matters, but I think this was a testament to what Nathan Thackeray was doing tactically for Trinity, first and foremost.
I wonder how they change it up. And for Lexington, that is, because we've seen recently that they've been kind of found out. And is there a tactical decision that can be made with the players on this roster? The blessing you have with this Lexington SC team is that they're really good, really, really good, and they're really flexible. So you can kind of do whatever system you want to do. But I think it's going to take a little bit of bravery for Lexington to do it. Right now, they've been sticking with this 4-4-2. Are they going to try a 3-back? Are they going to try to go one person up top, maybe do a 5-4-1 or 4-5-1? Sorry. What's the plan here? And maybe things just change when they have Ekic back in the starting lineup and Schartz is back playing again. I don't know. But it feels like something has to change before this fully falls apart and we have Brooklyn 2.0.
I would just love to see them be a little bit more direct. They feel very one note in the way they try to break teams down. Like, you look at this game, Kat Asman played one long ball from the goalkeeper spot. There is having an idea of how you want to play and then being too doctrinaire about it. just a little bit of variety would force a team like Dallas to mix it up, not be as comfortable in the press, just have that second thought in their heads. And I'm not saying they have to rip up the formula, because we know Lexington is a great team, but just that little bit of something, I think would go a long way for them.
Any final thoughts on this one? All right, let's go over to League One, where we're going to go to two expansion teams, although one of them's been playing just down in League Two. And the other one, well, they've been playing together for a long time. They just took a couple years off. It's Sarasota Paradise versus AC Boise, where it was a pretty even match all match long until, hey, it's Phil's guy. Kachian gets the game winner. It goes to the back post, just right across 6-yard box. It's a tap in, and it's absolute scenes for AC Boise. Although I have a little bit of beef, and this is a common thing that happened this week. Go celebrate with the fans. They traveled to like 2,000 something miles. Don't go to the coaching staff. Come on, guys, go celebrate with the fans. But hey, it was still a magical moment for AC Boise as they get a 1-0 win over the Paradise.
The fact that there were traveling fans for Boise in Sarasota, Florida tells you like there is something special going on with AC Boise. Like that is not normal behavior for a third division team. Like, it was super impressive to see that they had any traveling contingent whatsoever. It was a very entertaining game in which both teams like really just went for it, tried to win. Like we're playing high octane. Like there were periods of the game where it looked like it could go either way. And Blake Bodley assisting Dennis Costitian. Blake Bodley, number one, hell of a performance. But if you had told me that, hey, Blake Bodley is assisting Dennis Costitian like a few years ago, I'd be like, man, I can't believe Locomotive signed Blake Bodley. That's awesome. And so, yeah, it was a very special moment. One for Boise to get off the mark. I don't think Sarasota should hang their heads at all. This was a very easily could have gone either way. But that moment where Costitian sprints over to the bench, you could just see how much it meant to him. And obviously I'm sure the Boise fans enjoyed that one. And I think, it felt like the start of something for Boise, but overall, just very entertaining and glad to see both of these programs get off to a start that gives me hope that they'll be, they won't be cannon fodder like some of the recent League One entrants.
Yeah, I really came away impressed with both sides in this game. With Boise, the fact that it was so identifiably Nate Miller's style from minute one, you have to feel good about that. And they came out hot in this game, Boise. I think it was 3 shots on target in the first 15 minutes. And it was all Bodley and Moon working through the half spaces, getting those guys in crossing positions, then doubling that up with what you're doing in the press, where Costitian almost played like a number 9 next to Luan Brito just to give the one-on-one against the 2 Sarasota center backs. I don't know if Sarasota was necessarily prepared for that, but it's a credit to Mikael Lavara and that staff that they really grew into the game and found their comfort level. That midfield with O'Dwyer and Walker and Ethan Bryant is going to cause a lot of problems this year. They really were able to break down that press in the second half, especially. There are issues closer to goal, which I think is only natural for an expansion team. They're going to find that comfort level. But yeah, for game one against a very good Boise team, I think that's promising.
I'd even written about it in my weekly preview that I think both teams are going to experience a little bit of just growing pains at the start of the year, that the teams that we see in this match, as impressive as they were to start, will be vastly different from the teams of the finished product we're going to see later on in the season. And Boise really impressed me for that game. I was upset that I wasn't able to wager on it because there are no odds offered on this one. But beside the point, we're seeing basically an expansion team that's hitting the ground running thing, which isn't something we're typically used to seeing from a lot of USL1 clubs who do enter into the league. And when Boise has their next game on the 22nd up against Omaha, I think that could be a really massive just like announcement to the league that, hey, we're for real if you haven't been paying attention.
One thing from both teams, they were getting chances. Phil, you talked about it, talking about how just kind of wide open, high octane it was. I mean, it's not quote unquote normal to get 3 shots away within that 12-yard box that all these coaches are really trying to get at for these quote unquote high XG chances. Both teams were able to get 3. In fact, Sarasota had 1. I think that was within the 6-yard box that just gets blocked. And this could be a much different game if Sarasota gets that goal. I think that it was a really great showing from both sides. Looking at, and we did this last week, Alex and I did, where I kept looking at teams and I'm just being like, man, this is going to be better than people were expecting. But looking at a midfield of Ethan Bryant, of Aaron Walker at the base, Chandler O'Dwyer up top, and then behind them is Stretch and Declan Waters. Last year, what spurred on FC Naples was an incredible spine to their team, and Carson Enderlong being Carson Enderlong, right? This year, we see Sarasota has a comparable spine. Now they need Gary McLaughlin to be good in front of goal, right? We're not asking him to be Carson Enderlong because that's not fair. But if they can get somebody up top to finish away the chances, it feels like the spine of this team is going to be strong enough defensively to get them through and have them be competent all year long.
Yeah, that really is the differentiator here, where Kostesian steps up. He has that moment for Boise where he's paying that off. Can McLaughlin be that guy? I think that's an open question at this stage in his career. I've got some stock in players like Sean Karani that they've got off the bench. I'm really interested in what Matthew Sens gave them off the right wing. Are any of them 10-goal players in League One? I think that'll be decisive for Sarasota's hopes, but they're going to be a tough team to beat no matter what, and I do trust that they're going to find the number 9 eventually.
And McLaughlin is, he's a couple years removed from like 17-goal involvement season in 2023, 16-goal involvement season with 14 goals in 2022. It's like he's got it. And I think it's what we all thought was going to happen after he took that step to Madison, and it just never really clicked there. So I do hope that he can refine that form.
And in this game, it was a lot of him kind of dropping in and trying to get involved. Who's making the counter movement? Who's getting in behind when he does that? That's easy, correctable. You're going to see more of that from Sarasota in a way where that's already, you're adding 5 goals, let's say, to the tally over the course of the year. So how can you get the incremental gains? And some of that is going to be McLaughlin getting comfortable. Like, he is a good scorer, even if I don't think he's like Golden Boot, Carson Henderlong level.
Well, I'm just going to ask a question about the number 9, right? Because that's kind of where we're getting a little tripped up with this team, just a bit, is like where the goal's going to come from. When you look on the other side of them of AC Boise, where they have Luan Brito, who he looked great in this match. Obviously, no goal to come to his name, but still, he looked fantastic, the number 9. The number 10, we've talked about him all show so far. Behind him is Tumi Mushabane. Like, that is no slouch of someone who can get goals as well. I guess the question, or I guess what I'm really seeing here is there's a gap. There's a sizable gap between Boise and their possible attacking output and what Sarasota has right now. But if you look at someone like a Bolaños, who we know what he can be, can he get to being a double-digit goal scorer on the wings? Can he get into those close to double-digit assist totals? I think it's certainly possible. And so maybe this is somewhere we can see a Bolaños tuck a little bit more inside, kind of make those runs to the top of the box and finish them away. You don't have to have your number 9 be your goal scorer, but somebody has to be double digits. Bolaños just might be the guy for them.
And the relationship they had up his wing, where Anderson Rosa was overlapping like you would expect from a left back, but they kind of let Callum Stretch really step up on the ball from central defense. If that's the side you're trying to overload, then Bolaños can get inside, do that damage. He completed more final third passes than any player in this game, Boise or Sarasota. He feels like he's going to be hyper involved, and that's the more touches he gets, the better for Paradise.
And especially with Paradise having 3 more home games in their next 3 games, they have a Fort Wayne team who just lost their opening match as a club, and then back-to-back games at home against Portland and the defending champion Knoxville team. Like, these are 3 very tough matches to kind of just go through, but it will be very interesting to see where the Sarasota team kind of comes out on the other side, how they've kind of performed here, because it could very well kind of set the tone for the rest of their season, and they'll get a chance to play Boise games, which will be a really interesting kind of measuring stick against both teams.
And
I'm really glad you highlighted this, John. I'm so glad you brought this up. Welcome to Nate Miller ball, baby. Welcome. Interested in how far Boise's goalie was getting away from goal in the build-up? That's Nate Miller ball. I was interested to see how they're going to figure out the goalkeeping situation, because if it was going to be Javier, we kind of saw that from him at Texoma, which he didn't even make the bench. So did they not travel with a goal? Okay. So
they signed backup goalie, or announced the backup goalie day of. So
that makes sense. So it ends up being Andema, whom was a bit of a question mark for me. He is such a painfully obvious Nate Miller goalkeeper. You're about to watch a midfielder put on gloves. That's Nate Miller ball, baby, and I'm so excited for it.
Yeah, Koke Vega streaming this game, shedding a single tear.
Any final thoughts on this one? All right, let's go up to the championship. I'm sorry, Lexington. I really am. But the day could not have started any better than Aaron Malloy getting a 30-yard banger, which I did just talk about go celebrate with the fans, but also I don't think I've ever seen a better knee slide in my life. Like, incredible work by you, Aaron Malloy. However, one of the underrated signings that was made by Lou City comes up clutch in this one, where, and I got Mikelakale doing his thing, getting into dangerous spots where he forces a save and gets a tap in. So we end up having McFadden clean up some scraps, and Macaulay does his thing. This was a fun match. Donovan showed what they brought him down from Philadelphia to be, to dance through traffic, force a shot into a save where McFadden cleans up. Macaulay just dribbles through everybody. Lou City showed their strength, where, Ryan, you had a fun stat about Lou City that I want you to share in just a minute, because the streak does live on.
Yeah, I mean, they're 4-0 against they're 4-0 against Lexington. Sorry, I was trying to pull up the other streak that they had. But, I mean, that's now 7 opening day wins in a row for Louisville City. Like, this team just starts out the season on the right foot. And it's just, like, even when they went down, you never felt that Louisville were, like, entirely out of this game. And like, it's the reason why they won the Shield last year. They just kept finding a way to get results out of this. And, like, credit to Lexington for having the great atmosphere there. It was their highest attendance that they had, at least as a club, since they've joined the USL Championship, and they got the lead there. And it was a fantastic game to watch for the opener, but it has to sting that, like, Louisville in the second half just does what Louisville does and win games scoring multiple goals in them.
It's a little bit of, like, Louisville City Sundom a little bit, like, to use some modern of just, like, Lexington obviously has taken a significant step, right? Like, they were very, very good in this game. I thought, like, they easily could have gotten a result here. little bit of bad luck. Like keeper gets his fingertips to the initial, like the first goal. Like there's just a lot of things that could have maybe swung their way. And Lou City is inevitable. Like, and that's where I think like to take a genuine step up, Lexington is going to have to at some point make that Malloy goal be the start of something, like rather than trying to just stem the tide. And they needed to go assert themselves a little bit more. And then, yeah, Mukwele Akale, I'm glad that guy's not in the West anymore. That's all I'm going to say. I'm glad Louisville can have him.
He is in the West.
Keep him the hell away from me.
No, he's not. Sorry.
Yeah, confusing with this game where Kentucky is divided between
where this is an East-West matchup.
And the team that's in the East is in the West.
Yeah. No, I think, Phil, you're right to focus on the fact that there is no way you look at this game as a Lexington fan and feel, well, you do feel bad, but projecting forward, this has to inspire a lot of confidence. You went toe-to-toe with the best team in the league. I mean, you probably should have won this game. You won the XG battle. And Aaron Malloy was unplayable in that midfield. He was not flapped at all by the press. His ability to turn upfield and find those longer passes into Adedokun, into Philip Goodrum, just precise already. I may have tweeted it. I don't remember. He's going to get 5 or 6 assists just from blasting it forward to Adedokun this year. Like, that is an unbelievably good relationship already. Yes, you did get sunned. That is a byproduct of the fact that Danny Cruz is really good at this managing thing. And I do think it's interesting how Louisville went throughout this game, right? They're starting Brandon Days, who's a teenager in central defense, because like Josh Jones is just fully casted at this point, I guess. And Days looked so confident. Nicholas Murray pointed it out in his Young Stars column that he took more touches than any other Louisville player. To do that against your rival on opening day as a teen, that's crazy stuff. And not everything worked early. Louisville almost tried to press in like a 4-4-2 where Jensen Wilson and Shoanmi were going man-to-man against the center backs. It just gave Aaron Malloy too much room to kind of flip between the spaces. And they correct that. It's a halftime triple sub. They get back to basics. And that's when the new signings come into play. It's Donovan with the presence in the box. Akale, you sign him because he can carve through a defense like that in a settled situation. You couldn't write a script better for Lou City, the experience, and what they want to be this year.
It'll be especially interesting from Lexington's. Sorry, Kaylor.
No, go ahead.
It's just for like Lexington's next match is going to be up against Neil Collins' Sacramento. So like it's basically a pretty good kind of 1-2 punch from Lexington's opponents on. Like you're getting a glimpse at like the top managers of the league, the top clubs, and it's going to see like how well does this team kind of measure up to where they want to be. And like for all accounts, and a spoiler for like later in my article, I do think Lexington gets a result against Sacramento this weekend, just based on the performance that they had against Louisville. So there is positives to be had from this Lexington team.
This certainly feels different than years past. This just feels way different than Lexington spent money yet again. We're doing the dang thing. And maybe it's because it was in front of almost 9,000 people and the atmosphere was incredible and it felt like a proper derby, which incredible. It's awesome that one of the best rivalries now and best atmospheres we have going on is two teams in Kentucky. Tell that to someone starting up MLS in 1996 that your best atmospheres are going to be in the Bluegrass state, right? That's one of the wins that this league has. But maybe it was that, but maybe it's also that we saw last year Lexington was figuring it out, that they were gelling and they kept the pieces that worked and they supplemented the ones that didn't with some of the best in the league. Lou City has the ability to have depth like no one else's business. Like we mentioned the fact that Brendan Days gets a start, the just incredibly young player to get a start for Lou City. Well, how about the guy that was slated to go off to MLS this year, but instead didn't sign an extension, which is Josh Jones, ends up coming on for him, relieving him, It's not a bad player to have on your bench. Aiden McFadden's not a bad player to have on your bench. Chris Donovan, not a bad player to have on the bench. Maquella Kale, not a bad player to have on the bench. Kevon Lambert, again, you get where I'm going with this, that even despite the tactical changes that Danny Cruz made, right, which were positive in all ways, I think that Lou City showed the depth of their entire team versus Lexington. And this is not to say Lexington's bench is bad at all, but Malik Henry Scott, Jonathan Lewis, Javon Brown, Alfredo Mendez, great players, but they're not to the level of players that I just named for Lou City. When you have the depth plus the 11, it just makes all the difference.
And I do think there's a world where Lexington proves they are at that level. Like, you think about Brown and Lewis, they're MLS guys. Like, Medense has shown in Louisville and in League One, he's up to it. Latif Blessing didn't even play. I assume he's getting up to fitness. There are more layers to this that Masaki Hemi is going to be able to unfold throughout the year. So I think that's why I'm bullish more than anything. And even if it is a tough game against Sacramento, that doesn't change how I feel about the core of this roster relative to almost anybody else in the league right now.
And in terms of like performance, the fact that Aaron Malloy and Blaine Ferry essentially force Danny Cruz into a triple sub at halftime because they are like controlling things, that is really crazy. And one of the guys getting yanked at halftime being Zach Duncan, like that doesn't occur typically. So yeah, I just think like there's a lot of positives here for Lexington. And on a different night, like Philip Goodrum probably gets a couple of goals. Like he had a couple of very good looks that I think on a different night he maybe puts away, and maybe the narrative, I was thinking the narrative might play to his favor, but it ended up maybe cursing him a little bit. And you don't get to score on your debut against your former club / cross state rival. So
these scenes were rematched.
You think a Goodrum scores? Oof, that's gonna be fun. You think a Goodrum scores, he celebrates hard, like he really goes at it, or do you think he's doing the hands up, I'm not going to celebrate here? Like, what do you think happens?
Might be one of those.
I like to imagine it's a little bit chill, but
might be one of those where in Lexington he goes hard, like almost the Luis Suarez against Liverpool, where he was like he celebrated like big time in the Camp Nou, and was like, and Liverpool fans were upset, and he was like, I was in Barcelona, it's different, and everybody was like, we all saw it still. But I could see Philip Goodrum going that direction of the celebrating in front of the Lexington fans. But I guess we'll never know
until the USL finals, and then we'll see it on full display. Imagine. Okay, I want to ask a mean question, and it's not fair to Troutman at all. He got to start, but is there a world where he saves the Malloy, where Hugo Farou saves the Malloy shot?
Yeah, just straight up. And that it is tough from that angle with some bodies in front of you. You don't expect Aaron Malloy to hit that possibly. But yeah, I think that was probably savable.
I got to be honest with you. If I'm maybe this is why I never made it, and there's a lot of reasons why I never made it. However,
no, this is the only one.
We also saw Aaron Malloy take a free kick from 50 yards away and put it top corner. I'm assuming Aaron Malloy is shooting from everywhere. If Aaron Malloy has the ball at his feet, I'm just prepared for a shot because he's a sicko. I mean, I don't know. Any final thoughts on this one?
Jacob Green at right back, doing all sorts of weird positional things, kind of underlapping Marcus Epps, making runs over the top. The more weird things that Lexington does, because they have Aaron Malloy as a hub, and that gives them the freedom to do it, I think the better off they're going to be. And I'm excited to see what else they've got as the aces in the hole there.
They were really tucking in Epps as well, really just letting Green do his thing and just said, you have the entire right side to do whatever you want. So, yeah, if you have Malloy to be that backup and be the distributor and defender and just say, Epps, get into the middle and let Green do whatever he wants, good recipe.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the last segment of the night, which is we're just calling it extra time, where we're just hitting anything we want to talk about that was USL related. I want to bring attention down to Florida once again, to Hodges Stadium, which had 10,000 people in attendance, by the way, for Sporting Jack's championship debut versus Hartford Athletic, where if you watch the match, you would think that if you watch the match without score, you would say Jacksonville for sure won this game. But Hartford went 3-0. They're playing defensive. They're playing low lines. They are counterattacking. They are so direct in everything they're doing. I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm sorry, Phil. Rubio Rabin was fantastic, but Carriega was my player of the week vote. Dude had 17 minutes, got 2 goals, and was just a super stud as they were just kind of breaking down what Jacksonville was doing, despite Jacksonville looking good in the attacking third. But Hartford was up to the task, and it could have been 4. Augie missed a pin. This match could have been 4.
Yeah, just to put it out there, I voted for Alex Cronale for Player of the Week, so I was really far afield on that one. In any event, kind of a fascinating tactical matchup here where when I watch Jacksonville play, you really get the sense they want to play direct from the back, win a knockdown, and then go. And if they can't, in that first movement, really break a defense down, they don't have the creative players that can go through a defense in that way. And that played into Hartford's hands. As long as Hartford was able to slow them down on that first wave of knockdowns and second balls, it really became this rope-a-dope, where as soon as they recover it, it's playing long into Michi and Galena, letting Sebastian Anderson leak out on the right, leaning into the fact that Augie Williams is the caliber of hold-up forward that this team probably didn't have last season. All of that made them just lethal on the counterattack. And then you bring Carriaga in late in the game. It's a little bit more of the settled situations. He's the guy who makes those devastating secondary runs, and you see it with the first goal he scores. I had my doubts about Hartford, and yes, it's against Jacksonville. We don't know what they're going to be, but watching the intentionality of the game plan, I feel really differently about them coming out of week 1.
They're my biggest risers mentally. They were my biggest risers from the weekend. Any thoughts on that one? Who else has extra time thought?
I'd love to, we kind of bandied around talking about it, but the AV Alta Richmond game was fascinating in League 1.
Oh, yeah.
This game ends with 77% possession for AV Alta. And that is very much what they are trying to do stylistically. I think what shocked me was how willing Richmond was to just sit off and absorb pressure and pray that they could do something on the counter. And to their credit, they score in the 9th minute off a counterattack, off of a defensive corner kick. But Alta's fluidity was the thing that really stood out. The fullbacks, Alfredo Ortiz, kind of an extra CB, kind of tucking in like a center mid. Nick Relaford was the right back on paper. He kind of looked like a 10 in the attacking zone. I don't know what Brian Kleiman is cooking down there, but it's fun to watch at a bare minimum.
Yeah, in this one, I was really interested in the defensive plan for Richmond because I was honestly, you mentioned just how much AV Alta was doing, how fluid they were. They were taking shots. I mean, what was it? They had 18, 19 shots on the day. They end up getting 6 of them on target, 11 of them inside the box, which is insanity for any team to get 11 shots off inside of the box. That's just a recipe for disaster. But you end up having Fleon, who stepped up pretty well. I was fairly impressed with what I saw from Sam Layton and Sean Vinberg relationship-wise going on back there. And in the end, it ends up being a penalty that decides it. Granted, I think that Richmond were playing with fire a little bit too much. I'm not sure if sitting off that defensively after getting a goal early on from Kirkland was the right decision. Maybe that's not what their plan is for the full year. But Richmond showed something defensively, but Avialta was much better on paper than I was also expecting. They were not quite as much as Hartford, where I say really down on Hartford. I still thought they were a playoff team, but I was kind of down on them in total. Avialta was a little less sure about, but their attack looked borderline improved, all things considered, who they lost from last year.
I leave this one a little bit worried about Richmond. Yes, they get the goal, they get away with the point. They offered like very little, and it just does concern me that like, is there just not enough going on like in this Richmond side to be in the conversation? Like, do they just not have the horsepower of these other teams in League One? And did everybody get just a little bit too good? And like, did Richmond get left behind a little bit this offseason? This didn't really do anything to make me feel better about that.
And they have a week off, but like the next 4 Richmond games are Naples, Knoxville, Spokane, and Omaha.
I am willing to wait it out until we see Luca Dorado in this team, until Neil Seufert gets some minutes in that midfield. Like, I think there are ways for this team to improve just with health, like Darwin Espinal. At the same time, like I can't remember who I mentioned, it was a real sense of intention with the tactics. It was the opposite of that for the kickers, where it was so passive that I don't really know what they're trying to be. And Avialta can do that to you. I understand that. It's a weird environment. It's tough to go to California in week 1. But yeah, slight alarms going off for me there.
Anybody have another extra time thought?
I will give a shout out to the boy wonder Kenneth Hoban from El Paso Locomotive. Just it was a very unexpected start because we had heard him talked about as a center back previously. He played literally 1 minute last season. That is not a joke, that he literally came on for 1 minute of one game the entirety of last season. And so nobody really knew he had been a hyped prospect and all of that. He starts this game at right back due to an injury to Memo Diaz, but Alvaro Quezada was available for selection, and Hoban was selected over him by Junior Gonzalez. 16-year-old comes in, his first start ever in USL, and really his first meaningful minutes in the league. And he was the catalyst for Locomotive's attack for probably the better part of like 55 minutes in this one. And yeah, he played a lot of very, very smart passes while not being really caught out of possession all that much. Like, he gets dribbled past a couple of times. He's a 16-year-old. Like, I think physically he's going to get beat sometimes. But very intelligent, like, struck me as like he picked his spots to go forward well. And despite the fact that, Locomotive do concede like the 2 set piece goals, which, I think the long throw has certainly arrived on our shores if it weren't here already. But I think on the night, like, I was just really impressed, and his partnership in particular with Jimmy Farkaloon down that right-hand side, just it did seem like it was like, have y'all been like did y'all play in high school or something? Like, what happened? So yeah, or middle school maybe, I don't know. But anyways, Jimmy Farkaloon also impressive, I think, on debut for Locomotive. But Hoban in particular, I think, was just one of those, like, coming in as a relatively unknown quantity and just more of a hyped prospect for him to be sort of that composed throughout the game and make like a big difference. He plays that crossfield pass to Mondo Moreno, which eventually leads to Rubin's opener. So yeah, I think overall just that was something that really stuck out to me, and a unique opportunity in a Locomotive side that, you know, no Gabby Torres, no Palermo Ortiz, no Cristo Fernandez. So so yeah, some missing pieces, but I think the overall picture, maybe I'm feeling like a little bit better about Locomotive coming out of that one than I was going in.
I also feel like with both, and this was another match I wanted to kind of segue with, I want to kind of combine them just a little bit, where El Paso and maybe even Tulsa might feel, I don't want to say hard done by, that's not fair, but both teams faced 2 shots on target. Both teams conceded 2 goals, right? Like, it's one of those situations where, yes, they allowed shots, they allowed chances, but both Sacramento and Colorado Springs, they just put 2 shots on target. They just happened to score 2 of them. And you could also say on the other side for El Paso, like, while they did create a fair amount, I mean, what was it? They put 7 on target. I mean, they were lively going forward. Were they all the most competitive shots? No, but it was an improvement from last year, where they were at least doing things that were remotely competitive. For FC Tulsa, they had 3 shots on target. They've created 12 shots themselves, equal 6 in the box, 6 outside. Where Tulsa, if I'm remembering correctly, 2 really good saves to the bottom left-hand corner that, you know, different goalkeeper, different day, you know, a little bit more power, a little bit more space. They're goals. And we're looking at, you know, maybe El Paso walks away with 3 points and they win 2-1. Maybe FC Tulsa walks out with 1 point and it's 2-2. But those are the slim margins that we have in the league at this point.
And on Tulsa specifically, they doubled Sacramento's XG. They didn't play Bruno Lapa in the starting lineup, at least. Khalil El-Medkar started at striker, and he looked fine, but he's not a striker. And they had Remy Cabral and Nelson Pierre waiting on the bench. There are lots of layers for Tulsa that are going to become manifest pretty shortly, and they still were the better team at Sacramento. Like, if you're worried about FC Tulsa, don't be. That's the easy solution there.
In general, I was very surprised by a lot of teams. There was a lot of pleasant football going on. And Phil, I'm really glad you brought up the long throw, because I about messaged John today of being like, is there any way to track long throws that we have? Because last year I distinctly remember watching FC Tulsa and being like, that
Tulsa and Louisville, yeah,
just long, flat, long throws. And I remember talking, it might have been a mall night a few years ago, and I think it was a mall night, maybe it was somebody else, but they were basically like, I would rather face a corner than a long throw, because long throws just have a different flight to the ball. They're flatter. They can get flicked on a lot easier. They're too far away for you to collect. Like, they cause the same amount of chaos as a corner, but they're harder for you to deal with. If every team who is finding a long throw specialist who can do it, something tells me you're going to start seeing them fly up the table. I have a strong feeling there will be a strong correlation between the two this year.
Josh Jones last year with the long throws, like, he is the premier long thrower in this league. That was half the reason I put him on my all league ballot, because that was just something that nobody else was offering.
The conversation that Mika had post game with Junior Gonzalez was asking specifically about set piece defending and all of that stuff. And I mean, he talked about the fact that with he doesn't love the fact that long throws are becoming like more in vogue and all of that stuff. And I think there's the fact that they're now widely talked about, like the Premier League has obviously done a lot to sort of amplify them as a tactic, but the reality is that I think a lot of teams are having to rethink how they defend those. And you have to essentially set up for long throws the same way that you would a corner, in terms of like you're setting up man marking or zonal, like whatever. You have to have some kind of actual plan to attack it. And I think it feels a little bit, in at the risk of mixing sports analogies here, like it feels a little tush push in that, like it is a thing and like it's not unstoppable, right? Like I think if teams approach it in specific ways, they can combat it. But you'll have some that are like Colorado Springs' second goal, which is a perfectly flat throw that just hangs in the air enough to not allow the defender to properly attack the header and gets caught underneath it while the attacker is able to flick on the header into the goal. Like, I mean, it is just perfectly executed. And sometimes you'll have that, I guess. But overall, I think it's one of those that teams are going to quickly wise up and come up with strategies to be able to combat it. But we'll see what, teams are going to obviously try to exploit it.
Yeah, speaking of the last thing on the long throws, one thing I was reading, this was a few months ago, Expected Genius. It's the book that was released all about like analytics and soccer, right? And there was a whole section dedicated to just long throws. And that book was released in 2023, I believe. And it was talking about how like that's the next wave coming. Like to like soccer, they're like, this is the next one. Be prepared to see it like really happen. This one's coming. And now we are in 2026 and it's here. So like it's been on the docket for a while. Like Brentford and all of them were really utilizing it, then Arsenal, and then now it's making its way over here. Really interesting to see how it works. Swings, roundabouts. They're going to find some way to overcome it, and it's going to be like the USL 2 years ago, where if you weren't putting in crosses to the near post, you were just never scoring. And then last year it was long throws. Next year, who knows? Maybe it'll just be the back post is king again. But I mean, we're just seeing set piece design just go through different iterations constantly.
Changing the meta.
Yeah.
Any final extra time thoughts?
Oh, shout out
with the win.
That's literally where I was going. Denis Karchenkov with the brace and an assist in his first pro game. That's big stuff for Knoxville to discover someone that good.
On just 35% possession, and like for once, Westchester loses the game at home where they don't score first and then concede the following goals. Like Knoxville scored 3 goals in a single half, in the first half, no less, for the first time since like August 2024. Or like this team, I think won't skip a beat as much as we would have thought they were going into this season for defending their championship. And then just for Westchester, it's going to be interesting kind of trying to follow how they'll, do kind of moving forward. And to be fair, it was a very cloudy, rainy kind of Gotham City vibes type for that game, that it did produce kind of a sloppy scoreline as we saw.
A part of me wants to brag on one Knox. I'm going to complete the sentence. It's okay. Westchester showed me more than I thought. I know one of them's a penalty goal. That is what is. I think that this team, midway through the season, once they get a little bit more time, they got young professionals in the squad. I think that they can be competent by the end of the year, but I have a feeling this first month is going to be pretty brutal if you're a Westchester fan.
I mean, last season was pretty brutal as well.
I think if you look at those goals, that is just so much skill on the part of Karchenkov. and they're pretty well defended, all things considered. I'm still holding my stock that Westchester is going to be better than they were last year at a minimum. That's not saying much, but better.
Better's improvement.
Yeah.
All right. We all good on USL thoughts? All right. How about some final thoughts for the night? John.
Well, one, as we've been podcasting, Bam Adebayo just put up the second highest scoring game in NBA history. He put up 83. He put up 83 points against the Wizards.
What?
Yeah, he took 43 free throws in this game. So weird things happening in the NBA. I have my eye on. More pertinently, a shout out to a new show on NBC. I'm going to mess up the title. I think it's The Fall and Rise of Reggie Dinkins. It's Tracy Morgan and Daniel Radcliffe. Tracy Morgan is like an ex-football player who was kicked out of the league for gambling, and Daniel Radcliffe is making a documentary about him. It's got like the joke density of 30 Rock. Like, I'm in stitches every time I watch an episode. So if you've got Peacock for the Premier League or Super League, check that out.
That's awesome. Bam Adebayo, 83 points.
What a world.
What
he took
world.
22 3-pointers. Bam Adebayo.
Incredible. Ryan?
Yeah, I don't know. He went to High Point Christian Academy as well. So he's from roughly around the North Carolina area, but I'm not sure if this is stealing Phil's statement, but seeing Al Lang in an iRacing motorsports video game of like all places is just so cool that like the quickest way to get a USL stadium into a video game is apparently hold an IndyCar race next to the ground.
I think it was Mike Pendleton who said it's nuts that this racing sim render of Al Lang Stadium is a better rendition than we could ever hope of having in an actual soccer video game. Like,
they spend 3 days scanning all the tracks that they go to, so it's a really cool, really intensive scan for it. So it's like one of the most realistic, just life simulators out there. It's right up there with a flight simulator.
And free real estate for Rowdies, because it has all the accurate like branding. They didn't do the whole like because sometimes they'll do stuff like that where it's like the actual building but it says something generic of like soccer team or something, because they don't want to like license anything. So Rowdy's getting some free advertisement on the virtual streets of St. Pete. Yeah, fun to see.
I'd love to see it. That's awesome. I saw a little bit of that, and I was like, I don't know what's going on with that. Granted, I'm really intrigued on what the crossover of people who can afford to do iRacing in general, and the people who go to USL matches. I would love to know what the crossover is, but there are people. There are people.
There are dozens of us.
Someone has a really expensive racing sim that costs more than a new car.
Believe it or not, that's in the CBA negotiations. Players are begging for a new racing sim.
Yeah, no, that was fun to see. And Top Chef is back. And
yeah, brother,
we are back with it, which another motorsports crossover, because the first episode takes place at Charlotte Motor Speedway, plus North Carolina crossover with it is in North Carolina and South Carolina. I think Greenville is also going to be featured in this season.
That's right.
So we'll have USL crossover. I don't think we could only hope that the Triumph would be featured, but overall thrilled that Top Chef is back, and gutted for Kristen Kish, the host of Top Chef, to not win the Traders. Thought she had a shot, but it is good to have Top Chef back at just one of the OG reality cooking competition shows out there, and very excited for this season.
The fact that there are identical twins and life partner, not quite husband and wife in this cast this year is throwing me. It's good content right there.
Messy.
I cannot tell the twins apart at all.
See, Erica was like chiding Kristen virtually because she was like, "How can you not tell them?" But she messed it up once. She's like, "They don't look anything alike," and I was like, "Yeah, no, I can totally, I can tell too." Like, yeah.
Speaking of Greenville, I will be there next week, planning to be at the Greenville Asheville Open Cup match. So if you're a Greenville fan, say hi or ignore me, one of the two. I don't care which one. But that'll be fun. So another former USL connection tier. I drove through Statesboro last week, on the way to Savannah, Georgia. My wife's family was celebrating a 90th birthday party for her grandfather, which was awesome. It was great. Except like this was a rich party that I should never been invited to. Like I started doing the math. On how much everything cost there. This was a private, like a gated community on a golf course that, most places, if you live on the golf course, you get membership. It's a private golf course that you have to have an additional application to be in. So even the rich people can't play at this golf course. It was hosted at that venue. I started doing the math. You could have paid for my wedding 2.5 times, and that would have paid for this 90th birthday party. Like, it was absolute insanity. There were people speaking Norwegian because they're Norwegian, and I'm just sitting here, Southern, almost English speaker, poor, talking to all these really rich Norwegians, and it was something else. I wore my nicest shoes. They were the ones I wore on my wedding day, and people were like staring at me and like looking at me like I was not dressed nice enough. I was like, this is the nicest thing I got, but it's okay because I ate all their food. I had drank all their champagne, and I left a very happy person.
I don't know why I wore my nicest shoes is like the funniest thing to me. Like, I wore my nicest shoes. Like,
for me, I'm showing up in tennis shoes, and you're going to like it. Like, I will put on my nicest pair of tennis shoes for you. I will. I even put on the brown leathers, and people were like side-eyeing me. I was like, dude, like, but they had these like flaky pastry thing. You were talking about Top Chef, and remind me. It's like this flaky pastry thing, but it's like a little bowl, but it was stuffed with like fresh crab meat and stuff. And they were like the little appetizers that the waitress was just walking around. I was like, do you want one? And I tried one, and she just kind of kept coming back, and I just kept grabbing one.
There we go.
Like, everybody else was 100% staring at me because like you're supposed to take one. Well, nobody else wanted it, and so I kept taking theirs for them. I had like 5, and it's okay. It's all right. So I think that's it. I don't have anything else. Y'all good? All right. Hey, same time next week. We are going to be back, hopefully playing championship matches, for sure playing Super League and League One. We will be back here no matter what. So for the first and final time tonight, here's Alan's voice.
Thank you for watching another episode of the USL Show.
The USL Show is now proudly part of the Protagonist podcast family. Please go to protagonistsoccer.com to check out more work. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see everyone again next time.